Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Forbidden Land podcast. It is a somber, uh, somewhat upsetting week, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Francesca Hong in Wisconsin. She's the DSA, was the DSA pick for the Democratic ticket for the governor. And unfortunately, after a misleading amount of polls and a very nail-biting election night with a lot of fuck-ups, she lost to David Crowley. David Crowley actually dropped out of the race briefly and only re-entered with the governor's endorsement. And the people in Wisconsin voted for him. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on why she lost. And it seems to be something that not a lot of people are coming to a consensus on. I think Francesca Hong lost because of the way that she campaigned. And it has nothing to do with her policies. It has nothing to do with any controversy she ended up in, at least not entirely. I think it had everything to do with the fact that her campaign simply did not follow the general rules of a campaign, which is how to get yourself out there. And there's a lot of issues that were with her campaign. Now, she only lost by 0.5%. She lost by a fucking hair. This election had such good voter turnout that, like, while I was watching the Kornacki stream, they had to keep bumping up the expected vote count coming out of Wisconsin. So a lot of people voted in this election. Here's my issue, is that the reason why someone like Abdul Sayed won in Michigan, right, is because he plastered ads everywhere. Despite being outspent with, Steven's fucking $60 million in her bank versus El Sayed's, like $3 to $5 million, something like that. Despite being outspent by a large amount, he was able to get his face out there, running ads that advocated for his campaign, ads that pointed out basic hypocrisy in the opponent, stuff like that. And they ran on TV. People still watch TV. I know that's a little surprising. But Francesca Hong did not run any TV ads. And I think I can say with confidence that that's the sole reason that she lost. She was polling really high. These pollsters, I don't know what kind of charlatans they've got running these polls, but they were clearly overestimating just how many Hong supporters there were. A lot of people saw Crowley ads. Crowley was outspending her, and he boosted those ads into the TV networks. Here's the problem, is that you can argue, oh, well, she had a big online presence. I'm sure there were campaign signage things everywhere for her. She was, clearly well known. She had like an okay debate performance, but she got her message out there. The issue, I think, arose in the last couple weeks, where these like, I don't even know what you call them. These like Democratic strategists were like, let's dig up her old tweets. And we found this tweet where she said, let's abolish Thanksgiving, which, like, who fucking cares, man? Who cares about that? But the issue is that she then would agree to go on news networks while Crowley's running ads about this shit. She goes on news networks. It's now the only time that she's been exposed to a TV audience, and other than the debates. And she starts walking back these Thanksgiving tweets instead of deflecting away from them and going, who fucking cares? Let's talk about the real issues. Pulling in Abdul Sayed. She kind of got bogged down by the Thanksgiving controversy. And I think people visually seeing that on CNN, seeing her walk back, I don't know if it was on CNN, seeing her walk back these comments, and that's all they see of her outside the debate performance. And then, like, during those interviews, seeing ads from David Crowley's campaign being like, she's this radical, she's going to lose us the election. I think that played a major role in TV audiences not having a favorable view of her. She looks like she doesn't stand by her words. She gets bogged down too easily by these dumb controversies, and she should have deflected away from these types of things. She's also being outspent. She didn't fucking run a single TV ad. You get my point. I don't think the Thanksgiving thing in itself tanked her campaign. I don't think saying let's abolish Thanksgiving harmed her campaign, by the way. That's not my point. I think my point is that she shouldn't have been addressing it. And that's it. She should have focused the conversation away from that and on to shit that mattered and been like, this is a dumb conversation to have. Let's talk about the shit that matters and not this dumb bullshit that I tweeted out like 8 years ago. That's how it should have gone. That's how she should have handled it. So at the end of the day, her only TV exposure is going on cable news and defending herself against these stupid, attack comments, these stupid, strategic attacks against her. And then interspersed between that are anti-Hong ads from Crowley's campaign. And I think that's where she fumbled. I think that's why she underperformed in her district. I think that's why she, just didn't perform like people thought she would, and she still ended up losing by 4,000 votes or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. She lost by 0.5%. And it's depressing. I was like, once I saw the initial results rolling in and he was already ahead and she was trailing behind for the first 2 hours by a lot, by the thousands of votes, I was like, oh fuck, man, this sucks. She actually took the lead at one point at 11 10 or something like that. I have I screenshotted at the moment that it happened. At around 11:20 something, she took the lead briefly with a lead of 300 votes. That's 11:20 something Eastern time, by the way. She took the lead by a couple hundred votes, and that was it. And then she lost the lead 5 minutes later. So yeah, I took a screenshot of the polls when that happened. I was so hyped, and then didn't last very long. But at least she had the lead for a little bit. There was some fuck ups during the count. There was apparently something wrong with the way that they were tabulating the votes in one of the areas, so they had to recount one of the areas. And there's a moment where my boy Kornacki, as y'all know, I love watching him during my live episodes.
Yeah,
he just had this really funny moment where he's like he kind of plays into the drama of it all, where he's like, oh man. Yeah, let me pull this up. Yeah, it's kind of adorable. I love Kornacki, man. I love his little streams when he does these. And I'm going to be so sad when he just goes away after the election cycle.
Yeah, and I'm just reading the closed captioning, and so I don't have the fullest grasp of this, but it appears there were some irregularities in the reporting process, so I think they have to go back to the city location and do some work there, and then potentially kind of restart that process. That's what I'm gathering from the city right now, or from the county update.
Really? That's, so we're back to square one on this.
Potentially, and she's going through the Yeah, and I'm just reading the close.
I love Kornacki. My king. Yes. My king. Love him. Got Harry Enton beat. CNN's Harry Enton beat. We are Kornacki stans. Kornacki is life. What in the hell is this? Oh my God, people are relitigating ISIS. Give me a break. All right, let's move on before I get fucking sidetracked. The big story from this week, besides the election, is one that I didn't even realize was happening until right before this recording. I didn't have all the details until like just now. Apparently, like a month ago, you know, when the president visited Turkey and that event in Ankara where he offered Erdogan, you know, like fighter jets and shit, and Benjamin Netanyahu got really mad. Was like, that's not fair. Those should be our jets. While leaving, I guess they just revealed that he was gonna leave on Air Force One. He got on the plane. All the reporters and the staff and everything also got on the plane. And then he like got off the plane discreetly, got into like a catering truck, and was then driven to another plane and got on that plane. Apparently there was a threat that they claim Iran threatened to fire a missile at Air Force One. And so I would assume the issue here for me at least is that they let Air Force One take all those reporters and staff away. But it's like, yeah, so if the missile had shot the plane, all of the White House press pool and all those staffers would have died. Like, what the fuck? Also, that plane's like nuclear proof at this point. Like, isn't that plane fine? Like, that plane's fully kitted out. There's no way that Iran would be able to shoot a plane like that down. I just love this story. I love the visual of Trump getting into a truck and secretly being driven away from a plane. Listen to the British broadcasting companies.
Why did Donald Trump secretly switch planes by concealing himself in a catering truck? Here's what the US media is saying. The US president was due to return from a NATO summit in Turkey when, according to American officials, Iran made a threat to his life. Here we see Trump boarding Air Force One in Ankara. Media reports say he then got into this elevated catering truck and transferred to another aircraft, a modified Boeing 757 often used by the vice president. Meanwhile, journalists and some White House staff board Air Force One. Both planes then took off. The next time we see Trump is in the UK, disembarking Air Force One after being smuggled back onto that plane away from the cameras.
What?
He then crosses the runway and boards the newer version of Air Force One, the one controversially donated.
Are we for real? They stuck his ass back on Air Force One before deplaning in England? Oh, that's so funny. They went, we got to cover this up. Smuggle him back onto the main Air Force One. Dude. That's so funny. Oh my God. Wow. I can't believe they smuggled him back onto the other plane. That's the funniest part, is that they smuggled him back onto the main one. So stupid, dude. That's so funny.
By Qatar before flying back to the US. While on board that plane, journalists had some questions about their journey.
Do you know what?
One controversial parking Air Force One after being smuggled back onto that plane away from the cameras. He then crosses the runway and boards the newer version of Air Force One, the one controversially donated by Qatar, before flying back to the US.
So he gets off Air Force One after being smuggled onto it to get on the Qatari Air Force One, which is infinitely more unsafe, by the way. That plane is not secure. Like, it's been a pretty infamous story now that that plane is not equipped with the same safeguards and protections that the main Air Force One has. Oh, wow. Also, wouldn't the press pool be like confused as to why the president's just missing on Air Force One? Like, they're not going to question where he went on the plane.
While on board that plane, journalists had some questions about their journey.
Do you know why they had us close our window blinds this
You're, probably on a dangerous flight. They didn't ask me to close mine, but if they did, I would have done it.
We now know that's because he was on a completely different plane. The White House hasn't yet responded to questions about this, but here's what Trump said on the final leg home.
Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force
Well, I have
One?
a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go.
The Iranians haven't commented about this either, but last month a foreign ministry spokesman dismissed allegations of a plot to assassinate Mr. Trump as psychological warfare.
That's so funny. Yeah, I don't think Iran has any plans to kill Trump, to be honest. I think Iran's doing a classic China move. Like, they're obviously a little bit more aggressive than China. But I think they're pulling a classic move where, they're like, all right, we'll fire some missiles at military bases occasionally, but we're not going to go for anything big. Like, they might attack Israel occasionally too, just to kind of, reestablish how vulnerable Israel is. But I think Iran knows that, like, it shouldn't poke the bear, They know that if they killed the president of the United States, we would probably drop a nuclear bomb on them. Like, we probably would. Or we would at least start to threaten it, like, overtly. I think they know that we would probably nuke Tehran, which obviously would be horrible. But, like, if you killed the president, that's at least half this country. At least that would be like full tilt ready to blow up Iran. And then you'd probably get a lot of the neoliberals on board too, because they're being paid off by AIPAC. You'd probably get a lot of them on board too. And then you'd have an Iraq war style situation all over again, where there's like infinite support with some dissenters that want to blow up Iran. See, I don't think Iran is gonna actually try to kill the president. I think that's a little stupid to assume that they would like that. That's not in their best interest. They know that they would be eradicated by the U.S. government. They know JD Vance would sick the dogs on them if they killed Donald Trump. Anywho, that's so funny. Donald Trump having to sneak away like that. I've never seen a president do something like that. Oh, shit. Dang, my whole shit just fucked up. Okay, well, we're internetless for right now then. This podcast is going off the grid. Let me restart the recording real quick just in case. There have been power surges like all day. Like the whole time I've been home. There is a thunderstorm, to be fair, but it's a bit ridiculous. Like, this is the third time that this has happened. If this happens again, I'm almost certain that my computer will have to be restarted. The last time that this has happened to me where the power flickers, just make sure all my lights are fine. The last time that I saw like the power flicker like this, my graphics card lost power. Like, it disconnected just enough to pull the power out of my GPU, and then when it tried to send it back in, the GPU had already turned itself off. So the computer was done. You might as well have just pulled the GPU out of the slot while the computer's on. Like, it wasn't going to come back. So I had to shut the whole thing down, turn off the power supply, and restart the whole thing. This is really annoying because the next thing I had to talk about involved a clip. So I'll just talk about it for right now. The DSA's Oliver Larkin, which is from Florida Congressional District 25. He's running to dethrone the incumbent in the primary. He has been kind of on fire lately. You know, he kind of went viral with the Trump pedophile clip on Fox News. And he recently went on Scott Hannity's show. He went on Sean Hannity's show. And before he went on like the radio with Sean Hannity. And I was kind of annoyed with him on that just because Hannity like quoted Marx. And Oliver was like, I don't know who said that. Hannity was like, it was Karl Marx. You know, it's like a big gotcha. I can't tell if he was just like being sarcastic to Hannity by being like, I don't know, you tell me. Or if he genuinely didn't know that quote from Marx about, you know, working to his or her need. That whole quote, you know what I'm talking about. I think that, I want to think that he was being sarcastic, but I can't tell. And if I can't tell, the electorate can't tell. So he needs to chill out on that. But, you know, he needs to chill out on letting Hannity make him look stupid. But he went on Sean Hannity's show, and Sean Hannity just starts like going into like tax law. Boring. I mean, come on. But Larkin is essentially advocating for a progressive tax rate, which, if you know what that is, it's where every dollar you make after each bracket is taxed a different way. So, like if you made, hypothetical scenario where this is how the tax system works, it's not how it works, but if you made $50,000, you would get taxed like 8% on that. And then if you made, after that, another 60,000, so now your total is up to 110,000. That 60,000 would be taxed like 12%. So the first 50 is taxed 8, the next 60 is taxed 12. And then let's say that 110 is the cutoff for that tax bracket. Everything after that is taxed like 20%. So now every dollar you've made after that is being taxed 20%. That's kind of how it would work. It would be like you make this much and you get taxed this much. Then everything you make after that, you get taxed this much. Everything you make after that, you get taxed this much. It's kind of like that. That way it's not like, you know, oh, if you make 50 grand, you get taxed 8%. But if you made $50,001, oh, now you're getting taxed 12% on all of it. Like that, it's to prevent stuff like that. And Hannity's asking Larkin, like, just losing his fucking mind. Like, oh, okay, well, give me a number. Give me a number. Here we go. I got internet back.
Florida Democratic congressional candidate Oliver Larkin. I do appreciate
making for billionaires. I think that billionaires should be taxed out of FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower administrations. That would be a fine place to start, because that was the golden age of the American middle class when we were expanding the share of wealth and equity in the country. And
you want well, give me a number. What percentage of every dollar should every American be able to keep after they pay the government, local, state, federal?
It depends on the range of income that someone is making. For billionaires, I think that billionaires should be taxed out of.
That's the answer. Answer given. Answer has been given. And you might notice, actually, you probably can't see it. Hold on. Answer's been given. As you'll probably notice, we're only 2 minutes into this clip. And he gave a pretty damn good answer. That, you know, depends on how much you're making. And then he focuses in on billionaires, who are the main topic of the DSA platform right now. Because they have enough wealth to be like a divine king in the ancient world. And, you know, they have enough wealth to go around. And you'll notice he gives a good answer 2 minutes in. What will Sean Hannity do with the last 3 minutes of this clip?
Existence. There's far too much money that is concentrated among the wealthy few.
You want to empower the government to take from the most creative providers, the most brilliant people in our country. Now,
huh? Oh, he's probably saying that billionaires are the greatest providers in our country because they provide jobs, which is not true. They don't. They don't provide jobs. Businesses provide jobs, but the billionaire is not taking money out of his own pocket to provide these jobs. The business is providing these jobs. The billionaire is actually siphoning money and value out of the company. They're sucking up as much profit as they can out of the company, or as much stock pricing as they can out of the company. The company is paying for the employees, not the CEO or the business owner. It's the company. It's not like the billionaire's $30 billion he's got in stockpile is paying for the salary of his employees. It's not how that's going at all.
I don't know many billionaires that are self-made that are stupid. Do you?
I don't know many billionaires that are self-made. Most billionaires inherited that money. It's very rare for a billionaire to be self-made. You know, and even then, even if you try to argue self-made, think of all the necks that they had to step on to get to that point. Self-made, maybe, but cruel and unusual towards fellow humans, definitely. Think of how many people they had to abuse, exploit, possibly even socially murder to get to where they're at. I don't know about self-made.
I don't know any.
Well, I think that in the case of someone like Elon Musk, he's taken billions of dollars in government subsidies and government handouts to enrich his further wealth.
True.
And, he uses
also
that.
The carbon credit. He abuses the fuck out of that. Tesla's entire purpose is so Elon Musk can siphon the government of its carbon credits. He doesn't give a fuck. Tesla's not that profitable. All of the money Tesla takes in is from government contracts.
He also rescued astronauts that were abandoned by Joe Biden. I'm sure you're grateful for Elon's contribution there, right? I'm grateful for that.
What?
Well, I mean, Elon Musk didn't even start his own company. He just bought it out. And this is, someone
okay, but I'm sure.
True. That's so true. Yeah, he hostile took over Tesla and all those other companies. No, the only thing he was involved in was he just so happened to be on the team when they founded PayPal. Him and Peter Thiel and all them, when they founded PayPal. He then took that money and ran with it and abandoned PayPal and bought out Tesla and ousted the founders and took over the company. That is his whole origin story, pretty much. Also, the abandoning astronauts under Biden, that's so stupid. That's not true. He didn't abandon astronauts, man. No, Elon Musk was like, we got the money to blow up a bunch of rockets to make one that can bring back these astronauts, and that's how it happened. The fuck? That's so stupid. Dude, these conservatives, like, memory bank some of the weirdest shit to bring up during conversations. I'll bring up some shit about, like, a Republican president, and they'll be like, remember when Obama ate that burger with the mustard on it? I mean, yeah, but what the fuck does that have to do with anything? And ironically enough, Sean Hannity is actually the one that said the "enjoy your fancy burger" President Obama quote. Yeah, him like randomly remembering the astronaut thing. Okay. What the fuck does that have to do with this conversation?
You are grateful that he rescued astronauts that Joe Biden abandoned in space 200 and some odd days.
Who cares that Elon Musk offered a horse to a woman after he sexually abused her and coerced her? Who cares that he offered her a horse to shut her up, allegedly? Who cares about that? He saved a couple astronauts. Who cares that Elon Musk has this unfathomable amount of wealth, world's first trillionaire for a little bit there? And yet he refuses to do anything with that money that's worthwhile. refuses to solve world hunger after the the WHO was like, yeah, you can solve world hunger with just $12 billion. And then he just never did it after demanding that figure. He could easily solve world hunger right now. He could easily develop programs to help the third world. He could do all these different things with that amount of money. I mean, that's a shitload of money. He has almost as much money as the yearly military budget for the United States. Imagine what you could do with all of that money. Especially as a capitalist over here talking about private industry not having any restrictions, unlike the government. Then use that money for good. But no, he has to blow some billions on Twitter, on buying Twitter, so he can have his own Nazi forum that he controls. He has to blow billions of dollars on, allegedly, on hush money. I don't understand. Keep blowing bubbles on it, Sean.
Sean, I'm not really sure what you're speaking to. The International Space Station. I think
I'm talking about the guys that needed to be rescued, and Joe Biden did nothing, and Elon Musk rescued them. I'm sure you're grateful. All right, let me move on.
I think that we should have
rescued them.
I think that we should have a national NASA
billionaires
system
should
that
be
is
taxed
actually
out of
funded and not
existence.
having Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk making their own rockets.
Sean Hannity knows at this point that he's completely fucked this interview sideways, raw. He just knows it. He knows that he's completely destroyed this interview, and so he has to like aggressively talk over Oliver to prevent any of his sound answers from getting through. Someone probably said into his IFB, like, hey man, shut the fuck up about the astronaut thing. It's not playing well. It sounds stupid. And that's why he's turning heel so fast here.
Somebody making $100,000 a year, how much of every dollar should they be able to keep?
I think that the tax rate on
give me a number.
Most
starts giving an answer. Give me a number. Oh my God. I love this stupid ass question. This whole question is essentially, I'm going to ask you about this really complicated thing, but I want you to give me an irresponsibly simple answer. So basically, what kind of tax system should we implement, and in what way will that affect people making $100,000 a year? How much money into the federal, state, and local tax systems should a person making $100,000 a year pay into the government, and how much money will they be able to keep by the end of the year, based on the kind of tax code that you want to lay out? Give an answer with one simple number, no nuance, no explanation. Just give me a number. Like, imagine if he answered like that. If he was like, you should keep 82 grand. I don't know, something like that. You know, roughly a little less than 20% of a tax rate across all three branches, all three levels of government. Like, any normal person would be like, huh? Even I would expect Hannity to be like, all right, break that down. But he doesn't want that. He doesn't want him to break it down because it sounds sound. His arguments are sound. And so Sean has to be like, don't explain it. I want you to spoon feed my cattle, grass-eating, moron, fat-ass, lard-eating audience this bullshit answer. So then I can fearmonger on it and be like, you want to take away our money. Because if let's say he did give a number and it was like this crazy ass number where if you break it down, you'd be taxing people making $100,000 a year, like 42% or some shit like that. Dude, they would run this shit on repeat every night to scare all these old people. And he's smart enough not to do something like that. He's smart enough to be like, well, here's how we would do it. I can't give you a number. It's way too complicated for me to just give you a flat out number. So I'm going to explain how the system would work. If you're smart enough, you can come to the conclusion on your own. And then I'm going to explain the ultimate goal of my plan, which is to tax the ultra wealthy rich, which are none of your viewers. Like, none of Hannity's viewers are part of that elite class, and nor will they ever be. So this plan doesn't affect them at all. It just doesn't. Yeah, he might have some people watching that make over $500,000 a year. But like, his audience isn't comprised of the ultra wealthy elite. So this argument or this plan that he's laying out doesn't affect his viewers at all. That's why he's so upset, because he wants him to give a number on this like arbitrary amount of money to basically break down this whole complicated tax system and break it down and simplify it into one simple answer, which is not possible.
Middle-class Americans, and
Oliver,
Sean,
give me a number.
It's not that
How
easy.
much out of
I know
every
that
dollar
nuance
should they
doesn't
be
work
able to
well
keep?
on cable news, but
$100,000. No,
Ditherar. It's literally like the Shrek thing. Ditherar.
I don't think that we
$100,000.
should be.
How much of every dollar should they be able to keep? It's a simple question.
He just said, I don't think we should be raising taxes on middle-class Americans. That's what he just said. If you kind of selectively listen and hear through Sean's annoying, snivelly little voice, you can hear Larkin say, I don't want to raise taxes on the middle class.
How much are you willing
Sean,
to let the government take? How much? Give us a number.
I want to see a return on our taxpayer investment. We pay into
Give us
Medicare,
a
yet
number.
We don't get to benefit
Somebody
from Medicare
works
for all.
hard, makes $100,000 a year. How much of every dollar should they keep?
I'm not interested in changing the tax rate on middle-class Americans.
Boom. Boom. Destroyed. Question eliminated. Sean, you should have kept yapping. Shouldn't have let him get away with that.
On people making $100,000, I want to raise taxes.
Somebody that
on the
makes
billionaire class and on the
$500,000 a
corporations
year.
that-
Time to move the goalpost, baby. Time to shift that goalpost, motherfuckers. That's right. Oh, I didn't get you with my middle class question. Time to get you with this upper middle class entering the upper class question. Boom.
are getting away from it.
$500,000 a year. How much out of every dollar should they be able to keep?
It is in proportional to the top marginal tax
Give
rate.
me
that
They're playing them out. They got the music rolling.
we
number.
see, where if you're making
Oliver, give me
Sean,
a number. How much
Sean,
out of
it's
every
not that
dollar
easy.
should they
It's
keep?
not that simple.
It's not that simple. You're
They
the
should
one that
be
wants,
getting back what they
cradle
put
to
in
grave, womb to the tomb,
They
Green
should be
New
getting out
Deal.
what they put into the system.
Okay, so
What
how?
about what about the Green New Deal? Dude, Hannity needs to take his meds. Good God. You're the one who was talking about the Green New Deal, and then he entered some fucking hullabaloo, malarkey ass words into that too, because he's old. It's crazy. Like, you can't give a set number without breaking down the percentages in the tax brackets. Under a progressive tax rate, you'd have to break it down. Like, you can't just give a set number on a $500,000 a year salary. How much would you tax them? You'd have to break it down. Well, up to this amount, we tax them this much. Then past that, we tax them this much. Then past this, we tax them this much. That's how it would break down if Oliver Larkin was allowed to answer the question properly. If they had a fucking pen and paper to break out during this too. That's how it would break down. And you can't just give a simple number for that. You'd have to work out the math for it. He can't just fire out a number off the spot. He'd have to sit down and be like, well, let's see, if we do this percentage on this tax bracket, this would come out. And then you'd add it all up at the end. You'd be like, well, I guess we'd tax this much in total. And they'd be taking home this much a year. It just doesn't, it doesn't work the way that Sean Hannity wants it to work. And he's banking on, he's overwhelming the guy to try to make him look bad. But really, Sean Hannity just looks like a complete fucking moron while doing this. Like, I don't even think his viewership is watching this right now and thinking, yeah, Sean's got it handled. I think he sees the meltdown with Sean being like, give us a number. I think he sees that and he's like, I think they see that and they're like, all right, Sean, like, tone it down.
The Green New Deal, we should have public ownership of utilities. We're experiencing a climate
people
crisis.
talk a lot about fairness. What is fair for a guy that makes $500,000 a year? Out of every dollar, how much should the government get? Answer the question. Why don't you stop playing games?
The person making $500,000, $1 million a year, they should pay the same rate in Social Security.
Sean Hannity's the one playing games. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Sean Hannity's the one that's trying to play this whole give me a number game with him. What the fuck? This is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And then he brings up the Green New Deal. Oliver somehow squeezed in a rebuttal to that, by the way. I don't know if you caught that. He somehow squeezed in a rebuttal to that while Sean Hannity was trying to drown him out. I like barely caught that. But Sean Hannity's the one playing games. Oliver's answering the question properly. Think about that. Dude, imagine if it was like, hey, scientist, I know there's all this advanced math and intricacies that go into sending a rocket to space, but like, explain to my big dumb brain in the simplest terms possible, how would you send a rocket to the moon? Would you be like, how would you send a rocket to the moon? Well, sir, it's a little more complicated than that. You gotta shh. Explain to me in my big dumb brain, in the simplest terms possible, how would you send a big rocket to the moon? Like, it doesn't work this way. How much money would you tax somebody making $500,000 a year under your progressive tax system? Well, it's a progressive tax system, so it depends on what we do for each tax bracket. But it would probably be this much, and this much for these different brackets. So in total, probably this. It takes a while to figure that out. Yeah, you're not blanket taxing them with a flat rate. You're taxing them progressively, depending on how much money they made. That way you're not taking like an ungodly amount of money from them at the end of the year. Like, that's the whole point.
Tax as the rest of the working class because there's a Social Security
how much out of every dollar should go to taxes? How much can they keep?
$184,500 a year.
Oliver, this is my last shot, and I'm going to say goodbye.
Billionaire makes into the.
I'm not talking. I asked you $500,000 a year. How much should go to the government out of every dollar? How much should they be able to keep? Answer the question. Be honest, for crying out loud. What's fair?
They should pay the same Social Security tax rate as working class Americans. Goodbye. We need to raise the taxable income cap on Social Security.
You don't want to tell your real opinion because you know you will look stupid. To each according to the need.
Damn, they just cut his ass off mid-answer? Dude, this show is cucked. And this dude's so smug. I just had a thought. I don't know if I should say it, but it's the same thought I had. I guess I did say it when Lindsey Graham died, that I was like, you know what? Lindsey Graham got what was coming to him by dying in like one of the most painful ways possible. I would say that's like one of the only instances I've seen of justice being served to a Republican. And even then, like, he lived too long. So like, he got to enjoy his life. He was smiling ear to ear with a Ukrainian drone in his hand. This motherfucker needs to get like punched by somebody. That's my thought. Like, he is so smug. He's been allowed to go on Fox News for 20 years and vomit horse shit out of his ass. And like, this is his show. This is so embarrassing. I would kill myself if one day I woke up in his body. Like, if I brain swapped with him, I'd kill myself immediately. There's no way I'd ever want to live a day in the life of Sean Hannity. I would never want to do it. It seems embarrassing. It seems humiliating. It's immoral. It's an immoral existence. It's it just seems like a embarrassing, like degrading experience. He probably wakes up every morning, kisses the photo of him and Trump on his bedside table, leaves Trump a voicemail, his daily voicemail where he's like, "Thank you, sir. Thank you. You're the best president ever. If you ever need me to lick that boot, let me know." And then he puts on his little suit and tie, drives to work in New York, or wherever the fuck he hosts this show from. He sits down, he's like, "All right, team, what bullshit you got for me today?" "Well, sir, for the first 10 minutes, we're going to talk about Hassan Piker and his role in the Democratic Party. And then you're going to interview a DSA candidate and steamroll them while they try to give you answers. And then you're going to, take your blood pressure medications. You're going to get worked up. You're going to nearly blow a blood vessel talking about Muslims breaking over the border wall and murdering families in Texas or whatever bullshit story we came up with today. And then you're going to go home." And then, he probably goes home, eats dinner alone, because no one wants to be around him. And then he kisses his little Trump photo one more time, and then he goes to sleep. I'm not kidding you. Immediately, if I swapped with him, I'd immediately go to the garage, crank the car, and wait. I can't imagine being Sean Hannity. This fucking loser, dude. Even Bill O'Reilly probably had a better life experience than Hannity. Bill O'Reilly, he was prime time. He knew he was bullshitting. He was disgusting. He was doing illegal shit. But he probably went home and was like, "I don't give a fuck." Sean Hannity seems like he really cares. Bill O'Reilly, I see as just a grifter, moron. That probably is I know he's a Republican, but he doesn't ride the Republicans as hard as this. Sean Hannity seems like a diehard, believes all of it type of Republican that he would be genuinely shocked when Trump decides all media is illegal and includes Fox News in that and rounds up Hannity first. He seems like he would be genuinely surprised by that predicament. Meanwhile, people like Carlson and O'Reilly and Jesse Waters would all be like, "Yeah, we saw this coming. We're grifters. We know. We know what's up." But yeah, I would hate to be Sean Hannity, man.
Should they be according to the need, from each according to their ability? That makes you a Marxist.
Oh. Another detective over here, folks. I know last week we talked about Detective Bill Maher snuffing out the secret socialist connection that the Democratic Socialists of America have. Really groundbreaking information that DSA follows socialist values. I like how he uses that as a big gotcha. He's like, "Hey, Oliver, I heard I heard you quote this. Did you know that makes you a socialist?" "I found you out." It's like, dude, he's part of the DSA. He fucking knows, man. We all know. That's not a gotcha anymore. It's just not. You're not breaking any new ground. Lord. Speaking of, I didn't show it. I keep referencing it. But I have my DSA membership card now. And yeah, look at that. On it. Try not to show my last name, but look, my name's on it. I am a DSA member. The part of the Atlanta chapter of the DSA. Pretty cool, pretty cool. For a long time, for years now, I've been wanting to be affiliated with some kind of political movement, some kind of political party. And I never wanted to be a part of the Democratic Party. They just don't align with my full set of values. I obviously would never be a Republican. So when I saw that you can be in the DSA and the DSA actually aligns with my values for the most part, I was like, okay, sign me up. I pay my dues. I get newsletters and text and emails from the DSA Atlanta chapter with like local events and all that. One of the Atlanta City Council members who's in DSA was like, "It's my birthday, come to my party." Thought that was kind of adorable. Yeah, so that's how that went. I hope Larkin wins his primary. That would be dope. I was going to cover the Mike Collins backing the $1.8 billion slush fund. I think it's pretty self-explanatory that we knew he was going to do that. Shocker. Here's an interesting topic I wanted to mention because it's been making me really upset lately, and I feel like it should be talked about more. When I was a kid, growing up, I was born right after 9/11, and but like before the invasion of Iraq, and like right after the invasion of Afghanistan, and so when I was growing up, you know, if you met somebody who was a Muslim, it was always like mentioned with this air of like hostility or negativity, you know, very Islamophobic. And that was a common theme throughout the 2000s that I would come to learn as I got older. That, you know, like the FBI setting up disabled Muslim teenagers and trying to frame them as like terrorists so they could get like a big win during the war on terror, you know, to make themselves look good. Like the Bush era government was so unbelievably corrupt. And people always forget about this because Trump blows them out of the water nowadays. But like back then, the CIA torture program, the FBI like pinning anti-Muslim terrorist sentiment on people, like it was like a rogue state, man. It was the Wild West. And like, you know, with the Patriot Act and TSA and the Department of Homeland Security being created, this country, same thing. This country entered a dark period, and Islamophobia was at an all-time high. And it seemed like, you know, going into the 2016 election, obviously the Syrian civil war was still going, and ISIS was had already kind of become a big problem because of our exit from Iraq and the blowback of our invasion of Iraq creating ISIS, and our involvement in the Syrian civil war contributing to that as well. That was kind of going on, and so we had ISIS in the Middle East, and there were terrorist attacks throughout Europe, and threats of ones in the U.S., and, you know, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. After all of that, and things had started to die down, it seems that Islamophobia, while still existing, kind of took a bit of a backseat. On a systemic level, it was still there. You know, it's no coincidence that if you're Arab presenting, whether it be your name or your skin color, if you're Muslim presenting in any way, you will get pulled aside by TSA. You will get bomb swabbed. Sometimes you'll even get interrogated. It's no coincidence that happens to you. That's by design. The system is designed to be that way. Because it's deeply Islamophobic, you know. The assumption is just that all terrorists will be Arabs or Muslims. That's like the assumption by the US government and by a large swath of the American people, because white people in particular can't fathom a world where white people can be terrorists, or Europeans can be terrorists. White Europeans specifically, like, you know, Carl Smith is not going to be in the eyes of a white person. They're not going to think of Carl Smith as being a terrorist, but, you know, like what we'll go over, someone named Abdul al-Sayed is seen as a terrorist style figure just because of his name. So, you know, lately I've been thinking about this a lot because it's been ramping up a lot more recently. Like with Abdul al-Sayed running for Senate in Michigan, I've been seeing a lot of anti-Muslim attacks against him. Lots of attacks against his ethnicity, using his name to fearmonger. You know, Mike Rogers is employing these disgusting attacks against El Sayed by like emphasizing his name and basically pulling a Barack Hussein Obama move where like you'll see Trump always mentions Obama's middle name, Hussein. And it's a fear tactic. It's supposed to be like, look at this foreign middle name. Or in Abdul's case, look at this foreign name. So scary. And it's really disheartening. It feels gross to see. And last year we even saw it when Cuomo kept employing racist Islamophobic attacks against Zohran Mamdani. And people are still doing that. It made me really upset when people were saying, and I don't usually get this way about these kinds of things because I'm kind of disillusioned by America and, not that patriotic really. But when people were like, Mamdani shouldn't go to the 9/11 memorial event on this year's anniversary of 9/11, the 25th anniversary, I was like, why? They act like Mamdani was in the plane. They act like he was in the room while they were planning the 9/11 attacks. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? It's so gross. It's and when I see people of color repeating these same lines, dude, you don't see the irony here that 60 years ago they were saying the exact same type of shit about people of color. I mean, to say that the New York City mayor shouldn't attend a 9/11 memorial service simply because he's Muslim. I mean, talk about No Child Left Behind. Good God. How many people have been left behind? Just because he's a Muslim doesn't mean... Look, 9/11 didn't happen because Muslim. 9/11 isn't caused because the people doing it were Muslim. They happened to be Muslim, and the attack was caused primarily as a revenge plot. It was blowback. Our actions in the Middle East and our support of Israel and the Lebanon attacks where Israel was toppling entire buildings in Lebanon, and our occupation of the Middle East following the Afghanistan Civil War, that's the type of shit that led directly to the planning and execution of 9/11. It has nothing to do with, every Muslim should feel bad because a few radicalized Islamic extremists decided to carry out a deadly terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. Yeah, every Muslim should feel bad for that. That's ridiculous. That's like saying I should feel bad because of the guy that shot up that black church in South Carolina 10 years ago. It's like saying that. Like, I shouldn't feel bad for that because I'm not the one who did that attack. I feel bad for the victims, but I shouldn't feel guilty for that attack because I'm not a racist Confederate sympathizer like Nazi prick, and I didn't go into that church and do that. I've never thought about doing anything like that, and that's the case for millions of Muslims. That's not they don't think about flying planes into buildings. Most Muslims just want to live in peace, just want to live their lives, practice their faith, worship who they want to worship, and the gall, the disgusting insinuation that Mayor Mamdani shouldn't attend the New York City 9/11 memorial event because he's Muslim. The insinuation of that, it's disgusting. And it blows me away that in today's day and age, Islamophobia is so normalized and so like signed off on by the general public. The fact that it's so acceptable. Have we not learned our lessons? Like, especially when I see liberals doing this. Republicans, I already know, like, Republicans are still stuck on the whole why can't we say the N-word issue. Like, I don't expect any nuance out of them. It's when Democrats and liberals say shit like this Like, cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds. Why are you guys playing into this? You clearly have enough intelligence to somewhat understand the issue of racism against black people, racism against Hispanic people, racism against Asian people. You clearly have some level of intelligence to understand why that's wrong, why it's wrong to generalize an entire group, an entire ethnic group, and clearly understand that not every person in an ethnic group is one certain way just because one person from that ethnic group does something. You clearly understand that. So why does that same standard not applied for people who follow Islam? Why is that same standard not applied? And don't even get me started on the amount of atrocities that have been committed in the name of Christianity. And even with that, I still don't demonize Christians, because Christians are the exact same way as Muslims. They just want to worship who they want to worship. They want to practice their faith. Most Christians, I would hope at least, don't subscribe to the religious extremism that a lot of radical extremist Christians believe in. When members of the Bush administration say shit like, we're going to launch a crusade against the people who did the 9/11 attacks, and using religion as a justification for these invasions, or the recent administration, the Department of Defense, using quotes from Isaiah as a as basically a justification for the invasion of Iran. You know, when these people do this kind of stuff, it's disgusting, it's wrong, but I'm not going to pin all that on everyday Christians. I'm not going to generalize Christians for that kind of issue. So why do we not apply that same standard to Muslims? When groups of Islamic extremists do stuff, why do we then pin it all on the entire religion and its followers? Why do we do that? And recently, like today or yesterday, I don't even know when it happened, Curtis Sliwa actually came out and defended Mamdani. And I want to show this clip. Because it is nice to see him actually stand up for Mamdani. It is nice to see, like, despite all of the things I disagree with Curtis on, like his stance on immigration and the fact that they like beat up a guy in New York on Fox News because they thought he was an immigrant. Like, all that stuff is horrible, but I'm glad that he at least tries to go to bat for the New York City mayor.
What is your thoughts on the criticism of him, especially because in a lot of these cases, it's not anything he said, it's an idea of who he is.
Ridiculous. He's the mayor. Stop being sore losers. You knew this is Zoran Mandami. He was never a fake, phony, fraudulent fugazi like a lot of politicians. He told you who he was. Once he got elected, you should have known he was going to be there at 9/11. Now, if you choose to turn your back on him, I don't want to ever tell family members what they should be doing on this holiday. That's not holiday, but this solemn occasion. That's your choice. But I believe you respect the office. He's the mayor. He's representing the city. Unlike what my former friend, Sid Rosenberg, did with Cuomo, that I think stopped him dead in his tracks. I think it was 10 days before the election when they were joking around about what would happen if Mamdani were the mayor on the occasion of 9/11. You know, do you think that there'd be another 9/11? And Cuomo ended up laughing along with that shock jock. I think when you did internal polls, as we did, that really hurt him because he was gaining momentum.
That really was a turning point in the Cuomo campaign. That really was probably the moment that killed Cuomo's momentum, was when he was laughing on the radio with that fucking sleaze bag, laughing about how, oh yeah, if we had a Muslim mayor in New York City, he would do 9/11. Such a shitty thing to say. Also, Mamdani was in the state assembly before this. Why didn't he do it before? How would being the mayor give him the power to do 9/11 again? Like, I don't understand this logic. I had another power surge. I was cooking. I was saying, this was also happening around the time, and I think this also damaged Cuomo's campaign, where where that fucking senator from New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, came out and said something like Zoran was going to bring like Islamic jihad or something to New York City. Let me see if I can find that quote. Let me see. Where is it? Oh, come on. My internet's not back yet, but I can load a Reddit clip.
We're joking
All right, here. Watch this Reddit clip while I finish looking for this.
around about what would happen if Mondami were the mayor on the occasion of 9/11. Do you think that there'd be another 9/11? And Cuomo ended up laughing along with that shock jock. I think when you did internal polls, as we did, that really hurt him because he was gaining more.
Fuck. I have to wait for my internet to come back. Yeah, I think it was Kirsten Gillibrand that said something like Mom Donnie's gonna bring jihad. I have to look it up on my phone and read the quote. Sorry. Yeah, dude, the power surges today are crazy. That one shut my whole computer off, by the way. That one I had no choice in. So, like, the clip, the recording from before cuts off in, like, a really awkward spot. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Gillibrand apologizes to Mom Donnie. This was right after the primary, too. Damn, this was right after the New York City primary. Gillibrand apologizes to Mom Donnie over jihad comments. U.S. Senator Gillibrand falsely claimed in a radio interview that the presumptive Democratic nominee for mayor had made references to global jihad. This was also when people were like, oh, Mom Donnie said he's going to globalize the Antifada, which is hilarious because Antifada just means like revolution. I'm pretty sure they used to call the uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto the Warsaw Ghetto Antifada until like just a couple of years ago, because people had demonized the term so bad that they felt the need to change the name of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising and like steer away from the word Antifada. It is really ridiculous. The demonization of words that are perceived as too Arab or too Islamic, like it's just so ridiculous. And this really does it really does piss me off when people employ Islamophobic tropes against Muslim people to try to discredit their ideas. If this
because he was gaining more.
Sliwa clip buffered more.
Did internal polls as we did. That really hurt him because he was gaining momentum. Remember, don't vote for Sliwa. A vote for Sliwa is a vote for Mondami. He was gaining traction, and then he made that stupid remark and then didn't handle it well, and then Zoran exploited the hell out of it, as he should. That was Islamophobic. He's the mayor. Get used to it.
I love that he used the term Islamophobic. That really nails the coffin from Sliwa. Yeah, I like that he came out and said this. It makes me respect him just a bit. And I don't even think it's necessarily that he loves Mom Donnie. I know him and Mom Donnie have worked together a bit during this term. I think he's like named as like the night mayor of New York City, which is hilarious. But like the night shift mayor. But I think this relationship spawned from the fact that Sliwa hates Cuomo so much and respects Mom Donnie's like genuineness as a mayor. Unlike the previous mayors, which are all corporate, like politicians. I think he just respects how down to earth Mom Donnie is and hates Cuomo that much. He's willing to bat for Mom Donnie. Like he hates the liberals, but skips all of that straight to liking a democratic socialist just because he hates Cuomo and respects how real Mom Donnie is. But yeah, and all of this kind of reminded me of this old story. So Zoomers probably don't know much about this. I only know about this because of my mom caring about it at the time, because she was pretty on top of the news at the time. And back in a lot of my foundational political beliefs can be traced back to my mom. Because my mom nowadays would probably identify as a leftist. I don't know if she'd go as far as me and call herself a socialist. But she's a pretty progressive leftist. But back in the day, she was probably more like a left-leaning liberal. But regardless, she was very on top of the news, and seemingly she knew what was going on. She was on top of things. She was monitoring the situation before I was ever able to. And so back in the day, I heard about this, but obviously I didn't know much until I was much older. Back then, I think it was like around 2010 era, where there had been proposals to build what I understood to be them building a mosque near Ground Zero. And you can try to make the argument that it's in poor taste 9 years after 9/11 to propose building a mosque near Ground Zero. I would argue it's not. I would argue that it's actually very racist to imply that it is, because it goes back to that whole, argument that I made where not every Muslim wants to do 9/11. Just because Muslims happen to be the ones that carried out 9/11, that doesn't mean that all Muslims are responsible for 9/11. Doesn't mean that all Muslims should be punished and demonized simply for the fact that 9/11 was carried out by Muslims. It shouldn't be that way. I would say it's totally fine to build a mosque wherever the hell you want to build a mosque. And I was curious because I was looking at a map of New York, because there was polling that came out that showed that Mamdani has a very high favorability right now, 69%. Oh yeah. But that came out, and I was looking at a map of New York, and I thought to myself, you know what? Where was that mosque actually built at? Because I've never actually seen it, nor do I know where it is in New York City. It's not even at Ground Zero, dude. It's called Park 51. At least nowadays, that's what it's called. And it's not even like necessarily a mosque. I think it's part mosque, but it's like it's an Islamic community center is the way that it's described on Google. And it's essentially just a community center where really, I think they advertise it as really anybody of all faiths can go in there and just hang out. But that it's primarily a Muslim community center. And it's called Park 51. It's like 4 blocks away from Ground Zero. Let me... Yeah, it's called the Ground Zero Mosque by a lot of people that remember it. But Park 51, if I can pull it up on a map without doxing myself, is not really near Ground Zero. Like, it's really not. And people got so up in arms about this. People were pissed about this shit. Here, let's see if... I hope it doesn't show where I live, but... Here, look at this. Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't show this. How can I show this without doxing myself? Here, I'll put it over here, so it doesn't show my recent searches. All right, there we go. This is perfect. It's not showing anything. Okay, so look. Here's a map of New York City. These are this is where the World Trade Center used to stand, and these are the memorial pools, and the new One World Trade Center, the Freedom Tower, is right here. It's right here, right next to it. Then, if you pop down a couple more traffic lights, about 3 traffic lights away-ish from the World Trade Center site, is Park 51, which is right here. And it's just a building that's a community center. But look at how far away it is from the World Trade Center. You got to walk a pretty decent ways away from it. I know this whole plaza is technically the World Trade Center like hub. Like this whole thing is the World Trade Center. But specifically where the Twin Towers were and the One World Trade Center building is, this thing's pretty far away. It's a decent little walk away from these areas. So first off, it's not even like that close. So that's like the first ridiculous thing. that these people got up in arms about. But let's say even if they had put it like right here, which I think this is the World Trade Center Mall. Let's say they had just smacked it right in one of these like blocks here next to the memorial site. Who cares? Who cares? Seriously, who cares? Like, what the hell? I mean, my God. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's like you're basically giving the game away that you think Al-Qaeda is all Muslims. You're giving the game away. Which I guess really makes it no surprise that these same people that claim that shit also think that Zionism is equivalent to all Judaism. So I guess, yeah, if they follow that logic, they're going to follow that logic too. Who cares if they build a mosque near ground zero? The whole outrage about that is rooted in Islamophobia, deep Islamophobia. It should not bother you that a Islamic community center is built close to ground zero. It shouldn't bother you at all. It shouldn't, because you shouldn't think that the 9/11 terrorist attacks, represent the feelings of all Muslims. You shouldn't think that. It's racist to generalize that. I know I've kind of gone on like a long 20-minute tangent about this, but this issue matters to me because if you're going to have an issue with anti-black racism, if you're going to have an issue with anti-Hispanic racism, especially with all of the ICE raids going on right now and the ICE killings, if you're going to take issues with those, you shouldn't then turn around and hypocritically generalize all Muslim communities, which I've seen that being done by specifically Democrats, especially because of this Michigan primary. How many liberals came out and were like, oh, scary Muslim man wants to be the senator of Michigan. What are we doing? What are we talking about? Why are we employing like Jim Crow era talking points against a Muslim man that wants to be the senator from Michigan? I don't understand that. It's gross. Islamophobia has generally gotten worse. It was really bad, and then it kind of died down a little bit. And then it ramped right back. What the hell is that? And then it ramped right back up. It ramped right back up when Israel started bombing Gaza. Because people were like, look, Hamas represents all Muslim worldviews. Hamas represents the views of all Muslims. Thus, let's just start demonizing all Muslims because Hamas did October 7th. That's not how this works. And then people being like, look, people saying Hamas is like ISIS, that should be the best example to show you just how disconnected these people are. Because ISIS believes in a totally different set of values from Hamas. In fact, ISIS wanted to work with Hamas, and Hamas said no. Because Hamas's goal is resistance and liberation from Israeli occupation, while ISIS's goal is not that. At all. And just that alone, that's two different sets of goals, sets of values, from two groups that if you asked a neoliberal Democrat, they would say they're one and the same and represent the views of all Muslims. That's what they would say. It's dangerous, it's gross, it's disgusting to generalize all Muslims like that. If you wouldn't do it about Jewish people, you shouldn't do it about Muslim people. If you wouldn't do it about black people or Hispanic people, you shouldn't do it about Muslims either. That should be your set of values. You should not be generalizing groups of people like that. You shouldn't. You shouldn't be generalizing ethnic groups. Anyway, that's the episode this week. The Florida 25, the Florida primary in general is coming up. And the general election for the midterms is less than 90 days away. Scary. So remember that you should go vote. I know it's 3 months out. I'm going to be ramping up my election coverage. I'm going to be making episodes about the Georgia ballot initiatives. There are now 3 official ballot initiatives on the ballot. A couple of the proposed ones got approved, so we now have 3 official ones the last time I looked, which was like last week. I doubt anything's changed, but I'm still going to look anyway. I might do an episode or lump it in with the ballot measures one about the Attorney General race. I don't know. The Attorney General is a pretty important figure in state government, considering that they are the one that brings state charges. They are the one that can investigate sheriffs and police departments and stuff like that. Like in Georgia, our Attorney General, Chris Carr, can take sheriffs and make them the lead investigating body when investigating other sheriffs. There's that famous case where, and I believe that this is how it went. There's that case where, in like Hiawassee, Georgia, where that sheriff was personally targeting the city's police department. So he was using the county sheriff's office to demonize and attack the city police department. And like he got into it with one of them about pulling someone over outside of city limits and his jurisdiction. And there's another incident where one of the city police officers came across a county officer who had been injured. So he rendered first aid and, helped out in the aid effort. And then the sheriff showed up, allegedly, seemingly drunk, and just started going crazy and then tried to arrest the officer from the city and all this shit. And like GBI had to get involved. It was crazy. And I believe they recruited 2 sheriffs. One of them was Linwood from Coweta. Another one, I don't remember the other one. And those 2 sheriffs started investigating him. And that sheriff ended up getting indicted recently. So the Attorney General is an important figure, is what I'm trying to say. So maybe I'll do a separate episode about that if it seems like it's going to be a close race. And yeah, if you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/forbiddenlandpod. You could also go to our merch store and buy some shirts or magnets or mugs or whatever you want to do. You buy a pillow if you want. You can listen to this podcast on audio only platforms like Apple Podcasts, Samsung's podcasting app, which in turn might mean that you can listen to this on a Samsung smart fridge. How cool would that be? Yeah. Anyway, God, dude, I'm out of breath. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next Friday. Peace.